By Kodesa is daar 'n kontrak gesluit tussen die ou apartheidsregering en die nuwe demokratiese regering. Daar is 'n ooreenkoms gesluit, 'n ooreenkoms van vrede, 'n ooreenkoms van samehorigheid en respek tussen alle volke, kulture en nasies van Suid-Afrika. Alles het gelei tot die ontstaan van 'n nuutgebore Suid-Afrika waar almal onder een gemeenskaplike grondwet erken, eerbiedig en hanteer word. Daar was wenners en daar was verloders gewees. Die uitdagings was daar vir elkeen van ons om iets nuuts na die tafel toe te bring. Almal moes opoffer, almal moes help, almal moes hande vat. Niemand het gesê dit sal maklik gaan nie. 60% van hierdie land se wit mense het die potensiaal in hierdie land raak gesien. Baie van hulle wou vrede hê, baie van hulle wou saamwerk om van Suid-Afrika 'n sukses te maak. Nooit was dit hulle bedoelings om van die kontrak of ooreenkoms wat gesluit is by Kodesa af te sien nie. Nooit was dit hulle keuse om teen hulle woord te draai of om die kontrak wat gesluit is na 30 jaar te hersien nie. Dit was die fundament, riglyn en kompas waaraan Fw de Klerk en Nelson Mandela gebou het. Dit is die rede hoekom hulle eervolle burgers van Suid-Afrika geword het. Dit is hoekom hulle die Nobelprys van vrede ontvang het, want hulle het iets bonatuurliks gedoen. Hulle het 'n land verenig. Ongelukkig kan ek nie dieselfde van ons huidige politieke leiers en regering sê nie. Nelson Mandela se volgende woorde sal my altyd bybly. When a man is denied the right to live the life he believes in, he has no choice but to become an outlaw. No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin, or his background, or his religion. People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can taught to love. For love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. As I walk out the door toward the gate that would lead to my freedom, I knew if I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I'd still be in prison. If you want to make peace with your enemy, you have to work with your enemy, then he becomes your partner. Ons land het 'n ongelooflike groot prys betaal. Ons land het ongelooflik baie uitdagings, maar alles gaan oor die manier hoe ons probleme en verskille tussen mekaar uitsorteer. Nie almal is sleg nie. Hier's baie van ons mense, wit, bruin en swart, wat Suid-Afrika wil dit werk. Mense wat nie toelaat dat ander hulle mislei of verlei nie. Mense wat nie blind en doof is vir ander se foute nie. Mense wat glo in geregtigheid. Die mens het sy eie grootste vyand geword. Daar is soveel liefdeloosheid, haat, wraak en onvergewensgesindheid tussen ons mense. Hoekom? Want ons het nie leierskap nie. Ons het nie goeie leiers nie. Ons laat dit toe. Almal praat van jou mense, ons mense en my mense. Niemand praat en tree met wysheid op nie. Almal gooi klippe. Almal gooi hout en petrol op die vuur. Almal wil kwaad vir geld. Almal wil meneer wees. Almal wil reg wees. Almal luister net na hulle self, na ander, maar nie na God nie. Almal wil self God speel. Almal wil God se werk vir hom doen. Jesus is ons hoop, ons lig en ons uitkoms. Net hy en hy alleen kan Suid-Afrika red. Net hy en hy alleen kan Suid-Afrika verander. Net hy kan die harte van mense verander. Nooit kan ons huidige regering omdraai en sê hulle het nie 'n kans gehad nie. Ons land lê in stukke. Ons mense is verdeel soos nog nooit van tevore nie, baie erger as in die dae van apartheid. Enige vorm van samehorigheid tussen wit, bruin en swart mense word se muur deur politieke partye en leiers in die grond en vertrap. Om die waarheid te sê is hulle die probleem. Hulle is die rassiste. Hulle is die wolwe en skaapklere wat hulle self voordoen as goeie mense. Hulle is die rykes tussen ons. Daagliks verryk hulle self ten koste van miljoene mense wat in blikhokke leef en deur armoede verteer word. Selfs in die tydperk van die coronavirus was niemand oor die hoof gesien nie. Dit gaan lekker in Suid-Afrika. Die stroom van onputbare finansies droog eenvoudig nie op nie. Môre is nog 'n dag. Daar sal wel 'n uitweg, 'n uitkoms of voorsiening wees. My liewe landsgenoot, die rug van apartheid is lankal moeg gery. Die wêreld is besig om reg deur julle almal te kyk. Mag die Here oor julle oordeel, straf en vergeld. Hy is God en hy is in beheer, al dink baie van julle nie so nie. Demokrasie is 'n vervalle stelsel. Ons sal moet terugbeweeg na God toe. Ons sal moet terugbeweeg na Bybelse waardes toe. As ons dit nie doen nie, gaan alles net nog meer en meer verval en slegter gaan, agteruit gaan. Geweld, haat en misdaad sal elke Suid-Afrikaner op sy of haar knieë bring. Waar God nie is nie, is Satan baas. Nooit sal jy die hemelse God met aardse gode gelykstel. Sondes wat 'n gruwel en 'n afskeid in die oë van die Here is, goedkeur en goed praat. En dink, daar sal niks met jou of met jou land gebeur nie. Jy is gedoem om tot 'n val te kom. Die wêreld sal jou insluk en daar sal absoluut niks wees wat jy daaraan kan doen nie, want jy en jou regering het die lewende God verlaat. Julle die heilige God van wat hemel en aarde geskape het, verag. God se woord spreek hard en duidelik in Deuteronomium 28, wanneer seën God 'n land en wanneer vervloek God 'n land. Gaan lees dit gerus op jou eie tyd deur. Daar staan ook geskrywe, Jesaja 5:20, ellende wag vir die wat sleg goed noem en goed sleg, wat van duisternis lig maak en lig duisternis, wat bitter soet noem en soet bitter. Maleagi 2:17, julle het die Here moeg gemaak met wat julle gesê het, en dan vra julle nog, waarmee het ons hom moeg gemaak? Julle het dit gedoen toe julle gesê het, vir die Here is almal wat verkeerd doen, goeie mense, hy hou van hulle. Of toe julle gevra het, waar is die God wat reg moet laat geskied? Eksodus 20:2-6, ek is die Here jou God, wat jou uit Egipte land, uit die slawehuis uitgelei het. Jy mag geen ander gode voor my aangesig hê nie. Jy mag vir jou geen gesneede beeld of enige gelykenis maak van wat bo in die hemel is, of van wat onder op die aarde is, of wat in die waters onder die aarde is nie. Jy mag jou voor hulle nie neerbuig en hulle nie dien nie, want ek, die Here jou God, is 'n jaloerse God, wat die misdaad van die vaders besoek aan die kinders, aan die derde en aan die vierde geslag van die wat my haat. Maar ek bewys my barmhartigheid aan die duisende van die wat my liefhet en my gebooie onderhou. God is 'n jaloerse God. Hy eis onverdeelde trou aan hom. Jakobus 2:19. Glo jy dat daar net een God is? Dit is reg. Die bose geeste glo dit ook en hulle sidder van angs. Daar's net een manier om van ons huidige omstandighede ontslae te raak, en dit is met die verkiesing. Gaan stem reg. Beweeg terug na Bybelse waardes toe. Stem vir 'n godsvreesende leier wat 'n eerbiedige vrees, liefde en respek vir God het. Iemand wat hierdie land sal lei en regeer volgens die riglyne bepalings van God se woord. Maak nie saak wat 'n kleur sy vel is nie. Maak nie saak wat 'n taal hy praat nie, solank hy deur God gestuur en geroep is. Die hemel is daar nie rassakwotas nie. Almal van ons het 'n siel, gees, vlees, verstand en hart. Dit gaan oor wat in die hart ingaan. Dit gaan oor 'n gees wat deur jou manifesteer. 'n boom word aan sy vrugte geken. So baie belangrik, daar's 'n groot verskil. Maak nie saak wat 'n taal hy praat nie. En solank hy deur God gestuur en geroep is absoluut die waarheid. Daar's 'n groot verskil as mense die leier van 'n land kies en wanneer God 'n leier van 'n land kies. Dis absoluut die waarheid. Dit is twee verskillende dinge. Ons sal moet bid. Ons sal moet reg luister wat die stem van die Heilige Gees vir ons sê. Ons kan eenvoudig nie meer verder so aangaan nie. Mag die Here vir ons uitkoms gee. Mag die Here ons land en ons mense verenig en genadig wees. Net hy en hy alleen kan genees. Net hy en hy alleen kan gesond maak. Net hy en hy alleen kan verandering bring. Daar staan geskrywe, Matteus 5:9, geseënd is die vredemakers, want hulle sal kinders van God genoem word. Matteus 6:14-15, as julle ander mense hulle oortredings vergewe, sal julle hemelse Vader julle ook vergewe. Maar as julle ander mense nie vergewe nie, sal julle Vader julle ook nie julle oortredings vergewe nie. So ek weet nie van julle nie, ek wil graag vergewe word vir al my foute, vir alles wat ek verkeerd doen, en al hoe dit kan gebeur, as ek ander mense vergewe, vir daar waar hulle my te nakom, daar waar hulle my seer gemaak het. Baie belangrik, in die oë van die Here kyk wat in die hart aangaan. Romeine 12:17-19, moenie kwaad met kwaad vergeld nie, wees goedgesind teenoor alle mense, As dit moontlik is, sover dit van julle afhang, leef in vrede met alle mense. Moenie self wraak neem nie, geliefdes, maar laat dit oor aan die oordeel van God. Daar staan immers geskrywe, dit is my reg om te straf. Ek sal vergeld, sê die Here. En daai skrif kan jy ook gaan lees, daai woorde kan jy ook gaan lees. En Hebreërs 10 vers 30 en 31. Tyd vir alle gelowiges om wakker te word. Tyd vir alle mense onder ons wit, bruin en swart om op te staan vir geregtigheid. 'n beter Suid Afrika begin by jouself. Moenie reg in eie hande neem nie, moenie kwaad vergeld nie. Wie gryp na die swaard sal val deur die swaard. Jy moet jou vyand lief hê soos jouself. Seën die wat jou vervloek en bid vir die wat jou vervolg. Die Satan roer die pot van geweld, haat en misdaad. Hoekom? Want hy soek dood, bloed en vernietiging. Moet hom nie gee wat hy wil hê nie. Bid dat sy bose planne nie sal slaag nie. Daar's nie 'n wenner in oorlog nie. Die Satan wil hê ons moet mekaar sleg sê, beskinder en vervloek. Die Satan wil hê ons moet mekaar haat, wraak neem en doodmaak. As jy wil hemel toe gaan, moet jy die Bybel kan gehoorsaam. Jy moet doen wat Jesus Christus sou gedoen het. Hy is immers jou rolmodel. Hy is die weg, die waarheid en die lewe. Niemand kom na die Vader behalwe deur hom nie. Moenie die leuns van Satan glo nie. Vir baie was dit te laat. Moenie jy dieselfde fout maak nie. Ons vyand is in gees, nie in vlees nie. Ons ware vyand is in gees en nie in vlees nie. Daar staan geskrywe, Efesiërs 6:12, ons stryd is nie teen vlees en bloed nie, maar teen elke mag en gesag, teen elke gees wat heers oor hierdie sondige wêreld, teen elke bose gees in die lig. Jou ware vyand is nie in vlees en bloed nie, maar teen elke bose mag in die lig. 2 Korintiërs 10 vers 3 tot 5. Natuurlik leef ons in 'n menslike liggaam, maar ons voer nie die stryd met menslike wapens nie. Die wapens van ons stryd is nie die wapens van die mens nie, maar die kragtige wapens van God wat vestings kan vernietig. Daarmee vernietig ons die redenasie en elke hooghartige aanval wat teen die kennis van God gerig word. Ons neem elke gedagte gevang om dit aan Christus gehoorsaam te maak. Die apostels het ons kom leer wat God van ons verwag. Nêrens in die Bybel, my liewe broer en suster, ek wil dit duidelik maak, nêrens in die Bybel het hulle reg in eie hande geneem nie. Nêrens het hulle wapens gaan koop om hulle self te beskerm of te verdedig nie. Nêrens het hulle oorlog gevoer nie. Weet julle hoekom? Want die ware vyand is in gees en nie in vlees nie. God self was Petrus, Paulus, Stefanus, Jakobus, Filippus en Johannes se beskermer. Die vyand Satan kon absoluut niks aan hulle doen as ons hemelse Vader hom nie toegelaat het om dit te doen nie. Johannes 3:27 sê die woord dat niemand sal iets op aarde kan doen as dit nie uit die hemel uit aan hom gegee is nie. So sit neer die wapens, sit neer die messe, sit neer die bomme. Dit gaan jou plek in God se koninkryk kos. Die Satan wil hê jy moet reg in eie hande neem. Die Satan wil hê ons moet mekaar sleg sê, vervloek en doodmaak. Niks in hierdie wêreld is die prys werd om hel toe te gaan nie. Gaan soek die Here op, los die oordeel, straf en vergelding vir hom. Hier's ver te veel mense hier buite wat self probeer God speel. Sonder God se teenwoordigheid in hulle lewens is hulle absoluut gedoem om tot 'n val te kom. Julle is soos vrouens wat in krame sonder krag. Kry al julle opdragte van die Heilige Gees af. Toets die woord met die woord. As ons kyk na selfbeskikking, dit is ook nie die regte rigting om te gaan nie. Veral nie as jy jouself 'n Christen of 'n gelowige noem nie. Jesus het nie gevlug en mure gaan bou rondom homself nie. Jesus het nie gaan wegkruip vir die sondaars en die goddeloses nie. Jesus het dan juis gekom vir die siekes en die sondaars, om te red wat verlore is. Nou waar val jy uit? Waarheen is jy op pad? Jy is mislei. Jy word verlei deur wolwe en skaapklere. Ons opdrag as gelowiges is dan juis om disippels van mense te maak. Nou hoe wil jy dit doen as jy agter mure wegkruip? Hoe wil jy dit doen as jy vir die siekes en die sondaar wegkruip? Nee, my liewe broer en suster, dit is tyd om na die stem van die Heilige Gees te begin luister. Daar staan geskrywe 1 Samuel 12 vers 14 en 15. As julle eerbied aan die Here betoon, hom dien en na sy stem luister, en julle ook nie verset teen die bevel van die Here nie, Julle sowel as die koning wat oor julle regeer, sal die Here julle God by julle wees. As julle nie na die stem van die Here luister nie en ongehoorsaam is aan die bevel van die Here, sal die Here teen julle wees, soos teen julle voorvaders. Johannes 10 vers 3, vers 16 en vers 27. Die skape luister na die herder se stem. Hy roep sy skape op hulle name en lei hulle uit. Ek het nog ander skape wat nie van hierdie kraal is nie. Ek moet hulle ook lei. Hulle sal na my stem luister en hulle sal een kudde wees met een herder. My skape luister na my stem. Ek ken hulle en hulle volg my. Vir elke dominee, pastoor, leraar, priester, profeet, politieke party, instansie, ikoon, leier, politieke volkseie instansie, wil ek vandag die volgende sê. Jy moet weet, jy gaan pa staan voor die Here vir die wyse waarop jy mense gelei het. As jy wil God speel hier buite, moet jy ook die verantwoordelikheid kan vat vir jou dade. Duisende mense word jaarliks mislei deur mense wat self dink hulle is God. Mense wat hulle self op troonstoele plaas, sonder dat God hulle enigstens opgeroep het. Jy bly 'n mens, nie 'n God nie. Vir elke woord en optrede sal jy rekenskap gee op die dag van oordeel. Jy moet al jou leiding van die Heilige Gees afkry, anders is jy niks anders as 'n valse profeet nie. Jy is vals en duisende mense se bloed is op jou hande. Dit is 'n baie groot verantwoordelikheid om voor te stap. Moenie soos 'n dwaas na jouself luister nie, want Satan sal jou, ek sê jou vandag, hy sal jou wel tot 'n val bring. God haat hoogmoedigheid. Kyk waar het Satan opgeëindig, omdat hy nie wou kniebuig onder die gesag van die lewendige, almagtige, alomteenwoordige, allerheilige God nie. Moenie jy dieselfde fout maak nie. Die woord praat hard en duidelik met almal van ons. Daar staan geskrywe, luister na die woord van die Here. Johannes 3:27. Niemand besit enige bevoegdheid om iets te doen, as dit nie uit die hemel uit aan hom gegee is nie. Matteus 23 vers 8 tot 12. Maar julle moet julle nie rabbi laat noem nie, net een is julle leermeesters en julle is almal broers. Moet niemand hier op aarde as vader aanspreek nie, maar net een is julle Vader, die Vader in die hemel. Julle moet julle nie leiers laat noem nie, want een is julle leier, die Christus. Maar die grootste onder julle moet bereid wees om ander te dien. Wie hoogmoedig is, sal verneder word, en wie nederig is, sal verhoog word. Romeine 10:15. En hoe kan iemand preek as hy nie gestuur is nie? Daar staan ook geskrywe, hoe wonderlik klink die voetstappe van die wat die goeie boodskap bring. Jakobus 3:1, my broers, julle moet nie almal leermeester wil wees nie, want julle moet weet dat ons wat leermeesters is, anders en strenger as ander beoordeel sal word, is absoluut die waarheid. Luister na die volgende skrif. Ek praat met elke volkseie instansie, elke leier, elke ikoon, elke persoon wat probeer baas speel, elke uniebaas. As jy 'n leier is in 'n unie of wat ook al, wat mense opsweep, wit, bruin en swart. Ek wil vandag vir jou sê, luister baie mooi na hierdie skrif wat ek nou gaan lees, want jy gaan pa staan. Al het jy mense opgesweep om oorlog te maak, om opstande, om mekaar dood te skiet en op saam te trek, saam te beklei, en jy is verantwoordelik dat mense doodgaan, dat mense se bloed op die grond val, gaan jy pa staan. Daar was Dawid ook, hy was indirek verantwoordelik vir Urija se dood, maar God het hom verantwoordelik gehou, want hy het gesorg, indirek het hy die opdrag gegee, dat Urija in die linies van die verdediging inbeweeg, en dat hulle vir Urija doodgemaak het, Batseba se vrou. En dit wat ek wil vandag sê, dit kom met groot verantwoordelikheid. Jy kan nie mense opsweep en sê, nou gaan veg ons, of ons staan nou, ons maak 'n kring en ons skiet mense dood. Jy kan dit nie doen nie. As jy dit wil doen, is jy meer as welkom, maar jy gaan pa staan, jy gaan verantwoordelikheid vat. Al die mense wat jy lei, as jy in die grond, in 'n gat ingelei het, gaan jy pa staan, en hulle bloed sal op jou hande wees. So dit kom met groot verantwoordelikheid. As jy wil baas speel, en jy wil meneer wees, en jy wil almal lei en versterk en opdrag gee wat hulle moet doen, moet jy weet, daar's 'n God wat bo op die troonstoel sit, wat absoluut dophou wat jy doen. En as jy optree en God het jou nie opgeroep nie, is jy niks anders as 'n valse profeet. Jy luister mooi na die skrifte wat ek vandag gee, nie net vir wit mense, nie net vir bruin mense, nie net vir swart mense, maar vir almal van ons. Ek trek niemand voor nie. Hierdie skrif is vir almal, of jy wit, bruin of swart is, man, vrou of kind, of jy in Israel lewe, of in Australië, Engeland, Nieu-Seeland, Suid-Afrika, maak nie saak nie, hierdie skrif gee ek vir jou, dit kom met groot verantwoordelikheid. Matteus 13 vers 41 tot 43, maak toe jou oë, luister baie mooi. Die seun van die mens sal sy engele stuur. Dit is nou die dag van, wanneer Jesus Christus met sy wederkom, sal hy sy engele uitstuur, wanneer die trompet blaas, Jesus Christus kom af, luister mooi. Die seun van die mens sal sy engele stuur, en hulle sal uit sy koninkryk verwyder, luister mooi. Hy sal uit sy koninkryk verwyder, almal wat ander mense in sonde laat val het, en almal wat die wet van God oortree, en sal hulle in die brandende oond gooi. Daar sal hulle huil en op hulle tande kners. Dan sal die gelowiges in die koninkryk van hulle Vader skitter soos die son. Wie ore het, moet luister. Jy wil nie verantwoordelik wees dat ander mense se bloed op jou hande is, en dat jy opdrag te gee vir mense om in opstand te kom en te skiet, vir selfverdediging, ander mense doodskiet. Jy lei mense om sonde te gaan pleeg. Ek wil vandag vir jou sê, jy gaan jou vinger verbrand, jy gaan baie sleg tweede kom, en miskien gaan jy wegkom vandag daarmee, maar definitief deur hierdie skrif is dit hard en duidelik, jy gaan pa staan vir elke persoon wat jy mislei het en verlei het. As jy opdrag gee, as jy uit die boot uit klim, moet jy 100% daai opdrag in jou gees en jou hart van God ontvang het. As jy uitklim, is daar nie tyd om te draai nie, jy moet verantwoordelikheid vat vir elke woord wat jy spreek. Ek gee nie om op wie jy is, of jy die president is, of jy 'n volkseie instansie leier is, of jy vir Unies werk, of wat jy ook al, wit, bruin en swart, ek het nie 'n saak wie jy is nie. Ek sê vandag vir jy gaan pa staan vir elke persoon wat jy mislei en verlei. Definitief, en dit geld vir almal, vir elke politieke leier, dit geld vir ons president, maak nie saak, dit geld vir elke Unie president, maak nie saak wie dit is nie. Almal van ons moet verantwoordelikheid vat. Kyk na die volgende video's wat ek gaan opsit. Luister daarna, kyk self, waar het alles verkeerd gegaan in ons land? Mag die Here ons almal ontvanklik maak. Mag hy ons oortuig deur die krag van sy Heilige Gees. Die Satan soek oorlog. Die Satan soek bloed, dood en vernietiging. Hy soek geweld, hy soek vernietiging. Jesus het nooit sy rug op niemand gedraai nie. Ek beplan ook nie om dieselfde te doen nie. Vat hande saam met my. Tel op jou kruis en kom kook saam met my vir die koning. Sien die ware vyand vir Satan, vir wie en wat hy werklik is. Ja, hy kan geestelik aanval, maar hy kan ook vleeslik deur mense aanval. 'n Boom word aan sy vrugte geken. As jy na 'n persoon kyk, maak nie saak of hy wit, bruin of swart is nie. Jy sal dadelik sien wie is in hom. Is Satan in hom in gees? Is Jesus binne hom in gees? Of is sommer al twee daar, Satan en Jesus? Want 'n boom word aan sy vrugte geken. En onthou die kragtige skrif van Matteus 12:46 tot 50, wat die Here sê, wie is Jesus se moeder, wie is sy broer, wie is sy susters, almal wat die wil van God doen. Wees geseënd in die Here Jesus Christus, 'n mooi en geseënde dag word vir almal verder toegewens. Amen.
Mr. Mandela, I hope you'll forgive my being frank. Thinking very much of the kind of people who are watching this program in other countries than South Africa. Many of them are going to see the National Party as a party with a past that has not always been very good or very democratic, not always been non-violent in many ways, even within its own organization. They're going to see that you've made a number of very large election promises which have raised the expectations of people a great deal in this country. And they're going to wonder, frankly, whether South Africa, under your presidency, won't be heading down the same road that many other countries in Black Africa have. Will you, for instance, borrow money on the scale that so many other countries have? Zimbabwe, for instance. How will you deal with this problem?
Mr. Mandela?
South Africa is not a poor country. As I have said, our budget this year is 126 billion rand. We also are going to reorganize the budget, restructure the budget in order to avoid the wastage of a party. We will be able to to use the country's resources in a more efficient manner and to prevent the corruption which is so endemic in the National Party government.
Please, ladies and
The
gentlemen.
gravy trains where most of the funds of the country have gone have come to an end. We have committed ourselves to leaders trying to lead a style of life similar to those of the community. I am going to suggest that my own salary, if I'm elected as state president, must be cut. I am doing that, unlike the National Party government, which has attempted to pay large sums to the Director General when the poor people, when there are 5 million people unemployed, when there are 7 million people without houses. We are not going to live like fat cats. My friends in the National Party can do that. That's what they know.
Mr. de Klerk. A response from Mr. de Klerk.
May I, at the outset, say that our deficit before borrowing is much too high. If we want to be in step and attract foreign investment and be sure of the support of the IMF and the World Bank, we will have to continue in South Africa to maintain strict fiscal and financial discipline. This is what the government has been doing. By doing it, and by taking other steps, we've brought down the inflation rate to single-digit figures, and soon it might be 7%. We've brought down interest rates. All our economic indicators are pointing in the right direction. I'm very glad to hear that in the government of national unity, I will have the support of Mr. Mandela in being frugal with regard to government expenses. But then we must be frugal across the board, because it is at the moment organizations allied to the ANC who are once again doing damage to the South African economy by strikes with regard to various disciplines. And through those strikes, they are firstly helping to create an atmosphere which is not conducive to free and fair elections. Secondly, they're harming the economic interests of the country. So I'm glad to hear that he's committed to fiscal and financial discipline. He won't have any difficulty with me in achieving that. But if he thinks that he can save on the salary of politicians enough to solve the economic challenges which we have in South Africa, then he's in for a big surprise.
Thank you for your cooperation, Mr. Mandela. You can have a rebuttal.
Obviously, Mr. de Klerk was not listening when I was speaking. I may well as add that I'm happy he is going to cooperate with me if I say a state president should pay a tax on his income, on his resources, on his tax. That is what heads of state do throughout the Western world, not in South Africa. We are also going to issue government bonds, reconstruction bonds, both in South Africa and abroad, to raise the funds that we need. We are going to impose a fair tax to be paid by everybody. All these are going to help to get revenue for the country. But we are not going to live like fat cats. The days of the gravy trains are gone. Everybody should know that.
The ANC has promised lower taxes for everybody in its manifesto. Bonds which you raise also carry interest with them. And one of the biggest problems of South Africa is that the fastest growing item in our budget has been the interest on loans. Every loan that you take out needs to be repaid. And who repays it? The taxpayer. And therefore, we need across the board to ensure that we maintain fiscal discipline. That is the economic solution for the future. I have been listening very carefully to what Mr. Mandela has said. And I'm very glad that we're going to have a government of national unity, because it is clear that our experience will be absolutely essential if we want to have good government in South Africa. Thank you for those kind words, Mr. Mandela. I can also testify that on major issues such as nation building, we are finding it possible to work together. Can I say that we won't have peace before we have real reconciliation? This election is about the future. It is not about the past. And until we bury the bitterness of the past, until one can never forget injustice, but you can forgive. And we need forgiveness. We need reconciliation. We need to put our hands in each other's hands, and all the population groups need to say, we need each other. We have a common destiny. Let us work together. And that is why I'm so satisfied that we have agreed upon a government of national unity, because that is the instrument we need to lead this country towards that nationhood which will make us all proud South Africans, and which will ensure that we as a country will move forward together.
The time for the healing of the wounds has come. The moment to bridge the chasms that divide us has come. The time to build is upon us. We have at last achieved our political emancipation. We pledge ourselves to liberate all our people from the continuing bondage of poverty, deprivation, suffering, gender, and other discrimination. We succeeded to take our last steps to freedom in conditions of relative peace. We commit ourselves to the construction of a complete, just, and lasting peace. We have triumphed in the effort to implant hope in the breasts of the millions of our people. We enter into a covenant that we shall build a society in which all South Africans, both black and white, will be able to walk tall without any fear in their hearts, assured of their inalienable right to human dignity, a rainbow nation at peace with itself and the world. As a token of this commitment to the renewal of our country, the new interim government of national unity will, as a matter of urgency, address the issue of amnesty for various categories of our people who are currently serving terms of imprisonment. We dedicate this day to all the heroes and heroines in this country and the rest of the world who sacrificed in many ways and surrendered their lives so that we could be free. Their dreams have become reality. Freedom is their reward. We are both humbled and elevated by the honor and privilege that you, the people of South Africa, have bestowed on us as the first president of a united, democratic, non-racial, and non-sexist South Africa to lead our country out of the valley of darkness. We understand it still that there is no easy road to freedom. We know it well that none of us acting alone can achieve success. We must therefore act together as a united people for national reconciliation, for nation building, for the birth of a new world. Let there be justice for all. Let there be peace for all. Let there be work, bread, water, and salt for all. Let each know that for each, the body, the mind, and the soul have been freed to fulfill themselves. Never, never, and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another and suffer the indignity of being the skunk of the world. The sun shall never set on so glorious a human achievement. Let freedom reign. God bless Africa. I thank you.
Gaddafi had a large majority. Watch out. I am warning you. Watch out. Watch out. Please watch out. We were helped by the international community to overcome apartheid. People were opposed to injustice and oppression, and people believed that we South Africans would automatically be on the side of those who were being oppressed. Mr. Zuma, you and your government don't represent me. You represent your own interests. And I'm warning you, I really am warning you, out of love. I am warning you like I warned the nationalists. I am warning you. One day, we will start praying for the defeat of the ANC government. You are disgraceful. I want to warn you. You are behaving in a way that is totally at variance with the things for which we stood. I am warning you. I am warning you that we will pray as we prayed for the downfall of the apartheid government. We will pray for the downfall of a government that misrepresents us. You have got a huge majority. That's nothing. The nationalists had a huge majority that was increasing. They beat the dust. Watch out, ANC government. Watch out. Watch out. Watch out.
Former South African President Thabo Mbeki has accused the ruling African National Congress of abandoning its multiracial principles and becoming a black party due to its new land redistribution policy. And President Cyril Ramaphosa has said South Africa's constitution will be changed to explicitly allow for the expropriation of land without compensation, so as to redistribute land to black people to tackle severe inequality 24 years after the end of apartheid. Mbeki said the African National Congress, which led the fight against white minority rule in South Africa, stood for the freedom of all humanity, black and white. The argument that has been advanced by the ANC leadership about the land question communicates the firm statement that the ANC has changed in terms of its character, he wrote in a pamphlet leaked to the press. According to the former leader, the party is no longer a representative of the people of South Africa. Rather, as former President Jacob Zuma said, it is a black party. Land reform has become the country's fiercest political battleground ahead of elections next year, when Ramaphosa will try to revive winning support for the ANC, which has ruled the country since 1994.
Comrade Terra, when you went to prison Robben Island, you were a black consciousness. And when you came back, you became a historical mistake, which came out of Robben Island. it is extremely disappointing every time you open your mouth to speak here, that which you thought you represent, you have abandoned. You can't ask the question, who are your people? Because the National Democratic Revolution answers that question. It says the motive forces that stands to benefit from the victories of this revolution. Those are our people. Who are the motive forces of the National Democratic Revolution which you went to prison for? The motive forces of the National Democratic Revolution are the oppressed. Who are the oppressed? The blacks in general and Africans in particular. But consciousness, when it escapes you, it doesn't say goodbye. You are such a typical example of a person who has just lost his political consciousness. Because these teachings they should have taught you in Robben Island. But clearly, that University of Life has dismally failed when it came to you. So it is actually extremely wrong of you to stand here and want to distort.
President, I have to raise this question. Are you going to take the properties of the great-grandchildren of the Indian indentured laborers who came here? Whose properties are you going to take? Are you going to take the properties of the French Huguenots and German refugees who came here running away from religious wars in Europe?
Point of order.
Whose properties are you going to take?
What's your point of order?
Is it going to be the properties of the great-grandchildren of the slaves that came from Malay Peninsula and from the Philippines Islands? Whose properties are you going to take?
Please take your seat.
Please, you must let us know.
What's your point of order? The point of order, Deputy Chair, is that we have just being addressed. There was a State of the Nation not long time ago by the President of the country. We don't have the Deputy President in the House here.
Honorable member,
Lekota,
that's okay.
Just
take your seat, honorable member.
Just to be up to date with the processes.
It's corrected. Take your seat, honorable member. Go ahead, Honorable Lekota.
Honorable President, I apologize for that. I do want to ask these questions. Are you going to take the properties of the great-grandchildren of the Indians who came here to grow sugarcane in Natal? And if so, why? Are you going to take the properties of the people who arrived here, enslaved from the Malay Peninsula, whose leader, Abdurrahman Mortula, is lying on Robben Island? Whose properties are going to be taken?
Honorable
and who are you going to give
Honorable
this?
Lekota, Honorable Shenge wants to take it. What's the point of order, Honorable member?
Honorable Deputy Speaker, I was just saying that I can hardly hear what Mr. Lekota is saying. And I find what my colleagues are doing is quite distasteful. And not democratic, because we want to hear. If he's talking out of his tail or talking through his head, let's hear that and then respond to him. I just wanted to hear. I have nothing against you being angry about what he's saying, but we'd like just to hear, that's all.
Thank you. Can we please work with that? I think the Honorable Telesi is correct. Go ahead, Honorable.
But the answer is yes.
No,
stop asking questions.
Honorable,
you the
Honorable
answer.
Malema,
Yes.
nobody gave you the authority to do that. Go ahead, Honorable.
Well, Deputy President, in that case, are you going to amend the Bill of Rights?
Honorable member.
Are you going to amend the Bill of Rights, Comrade President, so that South Africa must know that this Constitution is no longer relevant under your leadership?
No.
Are you going to take the Bill of Rights? Are you going to take our rights under the Bill of Rights? We really need to know that reply.
Deputy Speaker.
And we cannot not ask that question today.
Deputy Speaker.
We ask it and we want to know. If you are going to give this land, you said something, you are going to give the land to our people. Now please tell us who is not our people in this country. Who is our people? Who is not our people? Who is? I'm not one of you. Well,
what are you raising on?
It's a matter that the President will answer.
Honorable Lekota.
Who is not our people? Who is our people? This Constitution says all of us are South Africans, and all of us have got the same rights. So, leave the howlers aside.
Deputy Speaker.
Who are you going to give the land to? You take it from whom, and to whom are you going to give it? President, if you are going to take the land, are you going to give it to Basotho? Or are you going to which section of the population?
Point of order,
Who is our people? I must ask the question. Who is our people? Who is not our people? The National Party used to say, others are Europeans, others are non-Europeans. No, who is our people, who is non-our people? I want to know that. No, my time is not finished.
Honorable Lekota, just hold on.
My dear friends, let's remind each other that we have some 35,000 South African farmers who provide food for some 90% of the population of our country. As we reduce the numbers of those, for any number of reasons, the food becomes expensive for all of us in this country. And the poor people in particular suffer more than those of us who are sitting in this house. I'd like to make the point that if we are going to stop what's going on the countryside, we must start in this house. We in this house are elected leaders of the people of South Africa. If we break the law by going out there, in spite of our vote on the land question, and say things that mislead our people into attacking each other, we are the prime source of the problem. Here we have in the office of president somebody who goes telling people that they are going to take land without compensation, in spite of what the party says. Somebody who lacks a political backbone. I was part of the decisions, and I don't hide it. I supported and I still support the constitution we adopted, the rules and the clauses that we undertook. When the president says the things he says today, which are in conflict with that constitution, when he was part of it, and therefore misleading young people to do things that they are doing, I must speak. But two, all the members of this house, all of us in this house, carry that responsibility. We cannot keep quiet. When Honorable Malema, who's not here this morning, stands on platforms and swear at some of the sections of the population, threaten them, and say they must wait until he comes to power and he'll go and walk all over them, the helmut pass off. We can't keep quiet. Men and women of backbone must speak so that our children are not misled, so that generations to come don't slaughter each other as the Tutsis and the Hutus slaughtered each other in the case of Rwanda. We must speak, comrades. We must please speak. Those of us at our ages cannot keep quiet, because we know what can result from this thing.
Lekota, will you just take your seat?
Whether you are black or white, whether you are COPE or EFF, whether you are Freedom Front Plus or not, we cannot allow you to say the things which will make South Africans kill each other. This I reject.
Achtbare lede van die parlement. U het in die inleiding gesê dat u is vandag die toeskouers en ons is die lede van die parlement. Kyk gerus na my beste parlement, jy sal sien nie slaap nie een van hulle nie. En dan rapporteer so terug daar in die Kaap. Ons is 'n wakker parlement. Ek praat namens myself, 'n kind van die Karoo. Ek is die seun van 'n man wat sy lewe omgewerk het in die Karoo staan vir elke sent wat hy besit. Ek is die kleinkind van 'n man wat onder 'n donkiekarretjie agter die trashkaap sy kinders moes versorg. Ek het nie 'n hektaar grond by enigiemand gesteel nie. Nie my oupa grootjie, of my oupa, of my pa, of myself het sy hand aan die lewe van 'n bruin of 'n swart man geslaan nie. Ek is nie 'n moordenaar nie.
Dit wat ek vandag besit, het ek en my voorgeslag op 'n bitter manier bekom. As een van twee moontlikhede, as hierdie proses moet voortgaan, die wysiging van artikel 25 van die grondwet, en dit wat aan my en my mense behoort, by ons gevat word, kan ons of ons goedjies oppak, soos die res van die blanke beskawings van Afrika, ons kan verdwyn en berus in hierdie rooftog. Die ander opsie is, dat 'n klomp honger en werklose mense uiteindelik verander in 'n klomp verminkte, bebloede mense. Ons gaan nie wegstap sonder 'n geveg nie.
That land can be taken without compensation from legal owners is extremely dangerous, and as such could even lead to civil war. Freedom Front Plus leader Dr. Pieter Groenewald uttered these words during the parliamentary debate on the acceleration of land reform. According to Dr. Groenewald, the rhetoric of land grabbing without compensation is clear that there is an election in South Africa and that the theme of that election will be land. He says it appears that there is currently a competition between the African National Congress and the economic freedom fighters on who can make the most promises over land to prospective voters. Now, to discuss this issue further, in our parliamentary studios, we are joined by EFF Plus leader Dr. Pieter Groenewald. So very good morning to you, Doctor, and welcome.
Good morning.
Talk to me about civil war in relation to land. How did you come to that conclusion?
Well, firstly, you must remember that land is a very emotional issue, and the land issue is not an issue that only started this year. It is coming a long way. In fact, in 2013 already, members of the ANC in Parliament stood up and said that the whites have stolen the land. And since then, even the president says that the land was stolen by the white people in South Africa. So, I mean, over years now, the whites are accused of stealing the land, which is just not true. They worked for the land, they paid for the land, and therefore I say it is a very emotional issue. And now you get people, let's take for instance the EFF leader, who said that I'm not asking you to kill the white people, not now. Now, what is he actually saying? That is instigating violence, specifically against white people. And that is actually nothing else than hate speech. Now, for over the years, white people have to listen to this allegations made against them. And I spoke to a lot of landowners, especially farmers, and they are quite clear that it is not a matter of just come and take my land or come and grab the land. And that's why I said, in a very serious note, that if anybody thinks that they will be able to just come and grab the land in South Africa, take the land without compensation, they're actually living in a dream world. And I said then that if you want to start a civil war, then they must just do that. And I'm quite serious when I say that, because I also see it as a responsibility from my side to say to people, stop this irresponsible remarks from the white people have stolen the land, we will take the land must be given, it must be expropriation without compensation, and that's why I said those words in the debate in Parliament.
Are you then suggesting that farmers and white people have mobilized themselves and to prepare themselves for civil war?
No, I don't say that they have prepared themselves for civil war, but they are organized for self-protection. If you look at the spate of farmer tax in South Africa, the communities are organized to protect themselves. And you mustn't see it as an action from the landowner side that will go over to a civil war. It's a matter of they will protect their property. And I mean, if there are people who just want to take the land and just grab the land, then they will protect themselves. And if they're going to do that on a big scale or nationally start with such a land grab, then you will get a situation where they will defend themselves, and that defense can create a situation where we can say that we will be having a civil war in South Africa.
But is that not a fruitless exercise, perhaps, Dr. Groenewald? 5 million white people and, of course, the majority black people in this country. And is that perhaps the correct rhetoric in relation to civil war?
If I heard you correctly, if you say it's not necessary to say this, I agree that it is not necessary to make the rhetoric used by other political parties' leaders, even the President of South Africa, and in numerous previous debates in Parliament, I've asked them to stop this. In fact, I even laid a charge with the Human Rights Commission against President Zuma when he said that. But the problem is they don't want to investigate it. And if you leave these people to just continue with this rhetoric, then you can create such a situation. And that's why I said that they must stop the rhetoric if they want to do it for political gain. This is not a good subject, because it is an emotional subject, to have a political campaign based on land. And that's what I said, that it seems that there is a competition between the ANC and the EFF in the coming election that can say who can make the best promises to the people. And let me also say, people must not be misled. Just to have a piece of land doesn't make you rich. In fact, if you have land, you will have to work that land. And we have seen in the whole land reform in South Africa, that especially when it came to the restitution claims, that the claimants didn't want the land. In fact, the Minister of Land Reform, Minister Nkwinti himself, said that about 93% of the claimants preferred the money and not the land. So I say that it is a political issue that is misused, and I'm asking those leaders to be responsible and to stop using this rhetoric of the white people have stolen the land and we will take the land, and to give it back to the people, and to say that I'm not asking you to kill the whites, not yet. Those are phrases and words that is very dangerous, and we don't need that in South Africa.
But in principle, as the Freedom Front Plus, are you opposed to land redistribution in South Africa?
We said that there are many ways to go on this issue. For instance, we believe in the principle of a buyer, willing seller. At the moment, more than 20,000 farms are on the open market, even below market price. So we say that we live in a constitutional democracy, therefore we have to follow the laws of the country. And we say that if you use that principle, then those land or farms are available for less than the market value, which is favorable, and the government should use that opportunity. And it is wrong for the government to say that because of the principle that land reform is not successful. It's just not true. The reason why we have problems with land reform is because of incompetent civil servants and even corruption. I have a couple of files on my desk where the department came to the landowners, made them an offer which they accepted. In fact, they didn't bargain about the price of the land, but up till now, and it's more than 5 or 6 years that they're still waiting because of the inability in incompetence of civil servants to complete the contract. That is the problem when it comes to land reform in South Africa. The other matter is that I've asked since 2004 for the government to come forward with a proper land audit. You know, it is also a rhetoric to say that 80% of the land is actually owned by the white people of South Africa. I dispute that. And I said, well, where is the land audit? Now, the minister in the budget vote earlier this year said that there is such an audit. It is with cabinet and it will be released soon. So we're waiting for that. Because how can you say that 80% of land in South Africa belongs to white people if you don't have a land audit? That is just not true. I've asked questions in Parliament about land, and the official answer from the minister itself actually admitted that about 21% of land in South Africa is owned by the state. So that is state land. So if we get those facts on the table, I believe that we can go the legal way, and then you can fulfill as far as land reform is concerned in South Africa.
Many Africans are still saying that the land currently was taken by force by white people, and therefore there should be no compensation, and that land distribution should happen immediately. Your take on this, and is that perhaps why you are raising the issue of civil war?
Well, if they say because of the past, we must ask ourselves, are we fighting for a better past, or are we fighting for a better future? The Freedom Front Plus say that we are fighting for a better future. If you go into history, I think there's, even if you look, for instance, what happened in 1899 till 1902, the Afrikaner nation was really almost distinct by the British War. So each and every nation in South Africa has a history. Now, I say that whether we like it or not, and I said it before, this is a constitutional democracy in South Africa. People have bought the land and they have the title deeds, which are available at the title deeds office. So if we want to go back into history and say because of history, we can now just take the land, I think then you're going to repeat history, and maybe then that part of that history was, as you said, that people said it was taken by war. I want to prevent that, so let us not repeat the history in South Africa.
Are you of the view then, Doctor, that the white privileged people will go to war over land in this country?
Well, if you speak to some people, of course, they will take up arms. Let us be honest with each other. I mean, do you really think that landowners will just sit back and say, okay, I won't do anything, you can just take my land or my farm? I think you are very naive if you think that landowners will do that. They will protect themselves, and they have the constitutional right to protect themselves. They also have the constitutional right to protect their property. Therefore, I think people are misleading themselves if they think they will just be able to come and take the land and the landowners will do nothing about it and just sit back.
Doctor, I thank you so much for your time and joining us in our Cape Town studios.
Welcome.
That was Dr. Pieter Groenewald, Freedom Front Plus leader, talking to us about civil war over land in this country.
Thank you, Chairperson. Let me start by saying it is erroneous to assume that all black people agree with expropriation of land without compensation. There are many well-read, many educated people who understand that if land is expropriated without compensation, their properties are not guaranteed. Their land is not guaranteed. And people want to own land. So while government is trying to solve a problem, they should not create another problem. That's why many churches, question was asked, which churches? There are many churches that are concerned about their properties. They want the rights to own property that is guaranteed now in the Constitution to remain in place so that they can also feel that their properties as individuals and their church properties are also secured and are safe. The question about land grabs, the question about the attempt to expropriation land without compensation is going to help alleviate land grabs. That cannot be true, because even right now, land is being grabbed in many places. There was an interesting article in Times Life about a certain Dr. Masrumule, he's a black man, who said he never worried about this subject at all until his land was invaded. He went to the police and he said the police refused to open a case. And he was advised by his neighbor to go to AfriForum. Only when he went to AfriForum and AfriForum accompanied him to Sochangube police station did the police help. Now, how many of people who look like us who are black, who already have land, their land is not secure? So it is not correct for people to say that land grabs are going to be avoided in future when the police are refusing to step in to help black people who are complaining that their land is being invaded. Now, the question about chaos, if land will be expropriated, that's what we believe, because that's what we see. When people are given the notion that it's now constitutional to expropriate land without compensation, they are going to do it much more than they do it now, when it is a requirement of the Constitution that it must be done with compensation. So the news to those who are land grabbers out there, that the Constitution has been amended, land will be expropriated without compensation, we think that many people are just going to continue in greater measure of taking the law into their own hands. We agree, churches agree with expropriation of land, but we say there must be compensation. I mean, COSATU also raising a point on behalf of their workers. Also, they say we cannot ignore people that are bonded. We cannot ignore people who are afraid that they're going to lose their properties. So we as a church are saying expropriation of land, we agree with it, but it must be with compensation. Land reform, 100% behind it. Land restitution, we are 100% behind it, but let everything that is being done to correct the wrongs of the past be done legally, correctly, orderly, and constitutionally.
Fw de Klerk is my name. I am retired. I'm no longer a politician.
De Klerk is a murderer. De Klerk has got blood on his hands.
Let me put the record straight. It's a blatant lie to say I'm an unrepentant apologist of apartheid. I have made profound apologies for the pain that apartheid has caused. I've said on many occasions in South Africa and internationally, apartheid was wrong, was morally unjustified. So it's a lie. The EFF is a racist, fascist party. Mr. Malema is fashioning himself on Che Guevara. He's called the commander-in-chief of this party. And I'm ashamed of what happened in Parliament last night, not for my sake, but for the sake of the image of our Parliament.
Do you have any regrets about saying that apartheid was not a crime against humanity?
When I said that recently in an interview, I was in line with the Security Council of that time. I was in line with Great Britain, with America, with Sweden, with Norway.
But what do you think about apartheid personally?
Apartheid was wrong. I've profusely apologized for it. I haven't only apologized. I and my team initiated the process which brought apartheid to an end. By the time when President Mandela became president, all the major apartheid laws have been scrapped from the law book by us, by a parliament in which the National Party had a majority. In that sense of the word, we started abolishing apartheid. We didn't only say sorry, we added the deed to the word and did something about it to rectify the wrongs of the past.
You were president of a racist regime. Are you yourself racist?
I was not president of a racist regime. I'm often referred to as the last apartheid president. I was the first white president who really abolished apartheid. My predecessor started by repealing 100 apartheid laws already. So we were bent on reform. From the early 80s, the National Party was doing its level best to work out a program of fundamental reform which would bring justice to all. What I did was conscience-driven. It wasn't because of sanctions. Yes, sanctions played a role, kept us on our toes. It wasn't because of the armed struggle. The ANC itself realized it could not win the armed struggle. It was conscience-driven by me and my fellow leaders in the National Party admitting that apartheid was wrong and that therefore we have to make a 180-degree turn.
Was an admission just good enough? Why did it wait so long? Why did your government of the National Party wait so long to change laws and end all the suffering?
It was a process. We started already in the late 70s repealing many obnoxious apartheid laws. It was a process which was delayed by the fact that the USSR, when it still had an expansionist policy in Southern Africa, were supporting hundreds of thousands of Cuban troops in Southern Africa. All that delayed it. When the Berlin Wall came down, it opened a window of opportunity for me. I saw the window and we jumped through that window.
Some people say that you have blood on your hands. What do you think?
It's not true. I have a clear conscience. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission tried its very best to implicate me in atrocities, and yes, elements in the security forces did commit atrocities. I appointed 2 judicial commissions. The second one was successful in uncovering the very unacceptable role which elements in the security forces played during the years of the struggle and even thereafter, even after I became president. That resulted in me firing a lot and putting on early retirement a lot of very senior officials from the Defense Force.
Don't you think those people should have gone to prison for what they did?
We agreed on legislation which established the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Anybody who committed serious crimes with a political motive could apply for amnesty. Those who applied for amnesty, if they made full disclosure, received amnesty from all sides. Those who did not apply were prone to prosecution, and the prosecuting authorities were free to prosecute anybody found guilty of serious crimes, of serious breaches of human rights, could have done so.
You obviously watch the news and you have been kept abreast with what has been happening in the country. This year was the 30th anniversary of your famous speech in which you had announced that President Mandela was going to be released. And now recently, President Ramaphosa said that the country does not have to thank you, Mr. de Klerk, for making that announcement that Mr. Mandela was going to be released and that the revolutionary parties were going to be unbanned. How did that make you feel?
I don't want the country to thank me, but I do want history to be correctly recorded. The ANC wants to rewrite history as if what happened in 1990 and from 1990 to 96 was just the result of their struggle. Yes, of course it played a role, their struggle. Yes, I give credit that they played a crucial role in that whole process. But we did as well. We also played a crucial role. It was my speech of the 2nd of February 1990 was an initiative. It wasn't negotiated. I didn't only release Mr. Mandela, I released all political prisoners. I unbanned all formerly banned organizations, even the armed wing of the ANC, without them suspending the armed struggle. That was an initiative when they did so. A few months after he was released, when Mr. Mandela announced it, they then took an initiative. So it was a joint effort. And true history should record that I and my side played an honorable role in that effort, that the ANC and under Mr. Mandela played an honorable role in that effort, and we shouldn't claim victory for any side.
Do you have any regrets about what you've just mentioned now, or would you have done anything differently?
All the major decisions I took, with the advantage of hindsight, I would take again today. I would have made that speech as I made it and announced that package, which removed any excuse the ANC could offer not to come to the negotiation table. I would call the referendum again to renew my mandate from the white electorate to negotiate a new dispensation. I would accept the constitutions we negotiated, the preliminary transitional constitution and thereafter the final one, notwithstanding that it wasn't perfect from my viewpoint. Yes, no regrets.
If you had not made those decisions, where do you think South Africa would be today?
I think if we clung to the old policies, South Africa might have looked like Syria today. I think the initiatives we took and the ANC took in coming together and in negotiating through a process of give and take, entering into good agreements, resulting in an admirable, very good constitution. If we didn't do all that, we might have looked like Syria, there would have been a civil war. We avoided a catastrophe by taking those initiatives.
Let's talk about the current state of South Africa. What are your thoughts on the current government?
I think we were on the right road in the first 15, 18 years after 1994 when President Mandela became president. We lost our way under President Zuma. We're on the wrong road now. I support whatever efforts President Ramaphosa is making to put us on the right road again, to revive our economy, to get it out of its lethargy. I support President Ramaphosa when he wants to act very strongly against corruption, and we have extensive corruption in South Africa. We've become a captured state by crook and criminal elements. So I'm supportive of the efforts which are being made, but I'm critical of the pace at which it is being done. And I think that we need to become much more realistic about the real economic challenges which we are facing.
What do you think your legacy will be? How would you like to be remembered?
It's not for me to write my own epitaph, but I would like to be remembered as somebody who made a positive, constructive difference at a crucial time in our history, and that I played a role in averting a catastrophe in South Africa.